What's happening? Welcome to Punk Rock Wood Shop. I'm Big Jim, and today we are doing a two-part shop tour. The part one is the standard shop tour that everyone likes to give, and because God knows I love a good shop tour. Gives us a chance to show off our tools, share a little knowledge, and maybe pick up a trick or a tip. Just look in the background, maybe you get a new idea to do something. The other part of this is something a little bit more unique to my shop, and I came from a DIY punk rock background. Played in a lot of bands and kind of learned to do things, kind of underground. So when I went to go build this shop, I did not have a lot of money. I was currently out of work on disability. I had a stroke. And so I had a lot of time and not a lot of money. But what I did have was a plethora of what I was considering garbage in the basement. Stuff I could sell, basically. Something, if I could get basically garage sale some stuff out, get a little bit of starting cash, start buying a few tools for my shop. So what the other part of this video is going to be is kind of a little bit of tips and tricks of how I built my shop for what I paid for it. This kind of depends on a few things. If you have money to burn, get your shop however you want to. But when you are trying to do it on a very limited budget, there's a few tricks that I learned. Number one, cash on hand. Try to have real money, not credit cards, cash. Because cash talks, which goes to our second portion of the thing is the love of Craigslist and eBay. That's how you really get good deals on tools. Tools do not have a huge resale value if they aren't the right color and don't have the right brand name stuck on them. If they don't have those few combo things, you are not going to get a good resale value out of your tool. That's just something you accept when you get into this game. That being said, if you're on the other end of that game trying to build your shop and you're willing to go used, older, you can get a lot of bang for your buck. And that's kind of where I went with this. I'm showing you a few of the tricks and tips that I did to get this shop for what I did. I'll go through it tool by tool, kind of give you a breakdown of what I paid for it, where I got it, maybe there's a little story behind it. At the end of it, I'll add it all up, and you can see basically what I wound up paying for the majority of the machinery in my shop. I can't go through all the hand tools because a lot of those things were either given to me or just picked up over the years. My shop is located in the basement of my house. It is wired for 110, 220, dust control, air, compressed air all the way around. My shop is 1,250 square feet. So it gives me a lot of room to kind of set up tools and leave tools set up. So that is a definite plus. With that being said, let's get on the road here. We'll start going around the shop here, and I'll give you a little bit of a breakdown, and let's do this and have some fun. Over here is my wood storage. I don't have a lot of long wood storage for like longer pieces. I tend to cut everything down almost as I need it. And I have a rack over there for some longer boards, but it's very small. But what I do have is for anything that's in the 36-inch range is all through here. I have got a little bit of everything. I've got cherry, Brazilian cherry, maple, poplar, mahogany. That's pretty much the gist of what most of this is. Now, here's where the good part comes. Where did all this come from? Because, like I said, everyone knows I'm cheap. Near where I live, there is a place that sells offcuts of stuff that they don't use. So this is all stuff they would normally burn or throw away. They'll pallet it up and auction it off. I've gotten some of this stuff as cheap as $5 a pallet. But all of this wood, even what you can't see from camera range there, I paid $120 for all of this. It allows me to make mistakes. It allows me to, I don't have to err on the side of caution, worried about wood costs on some of this stuff. And sometimes I'll make something out of, a cherry or an oak offcut that I have that I wouldn't normally want to make, I'd worry about it if I was paying full price for hardwoods. But, with this, I'm just like, let's try it. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, learn the lesson. But as you can see here, we have the wood goes all the way back and down. You got my longer wood storage and tool chests for everything that doesn't go on the wheelie cart, and isn't an automotive tool. The automotive tools I pretty much have put upstairs in the garage, and a smaller box for the things I use. This is all, not everyday tools. Inherited a lot from different members of the family that they retire. They're mechanics or woodworkers. Just, here's a tool, and you never say no to free tools. So these things are jam-packed with Snap-on and Craftsman. Everyone's got to have their little tool chests. Got to have something to vacuum the dust out of because, they collect dust like it's going out of style. Moving over to the jointer. This is kind of almost a standard in a lot of people's shops, at least this size anyway. It's a 6-inch Grizzly, the G0452Z. Picked it up secondhand, covered in rust. Yeah, I mean, it was ugly. But it cleaned up incredibly well, like a mirror, just like everything else does. A little bit of elbow grease. This had already came with the Helix cutter installed on it. I bought this off Craigslist. Drove, I think it was about 2-3 hours. It was up near Indianapolis. Paid $250 for it with the Helix cutter. Brand new. I think they're running with the Helix cutters about $875 minus freight. Up next, I've got my 13-inch jet planer. It is the JPM 13CS. Is the model upgraded with the Wixley. It's 3-blade system. Dust collection's all right on it. My biggest problem with this is I want to put a helical head in it. And for some odd reason, this particular model, it's like 3 times as much as any other planer out there. I mean, literally, it's almost $1,000 for the cutter. I have no idea why, but it is enough reason for me to basically say that this tool's time is limited in my shop. Other than the fact it's 13 inches, I would like to have a 15-inch planer, but the unupgradability of it is really my biggest problem. And it runs good, does a good job, very low snipe, tuned it up real good, and that's really the trick with most of your tools is the tuning of them. But it works, it's great. I'll sell it, I'll keep the Wixley. But like I said, I needed a planer, paid $300 for it. Knew they looked like they were say around the 1200 range. I'm not sure how accurate that is because I don't even think they make these anymore. But for $300, it got me a planer, it got me in shop, and it got me running. Coming in next, the Widowmaker, the G1026 3-horsepower shaper. This thing scares me to death. I mean, it works great. If you're cutting out guitar bodies, anything with a template, I don't use it like a router. That just terrifies me. It comes with the most industrial strength steel guard you can imagine. And the back plates here are, 1/2-inch steel for the dust collection. It's really, really just beefy. And when you turn it on for a 3-horse motor, it sounds like the end of the world is going on it. And it's kicking some serious RPMs. Now, I don't have any shaper cutters. It has one purpose and one purpose only in my shop, and that is for template cutting. Yeah, I have the Helix 2.5-inch Helix cutter head with the custom bearing for the exact width, which is a little bit smaller than your standard bearing. It's actually, they had to have the bearings custom made. As far as just perfect cutting, this thing can do it. It can take off as much wood as you're willing, as brave enough as you're to feed into it. That's the thing. If you're brave enough and want to get your fingers close enough to it, it will cut it off. Mind you, this thing would just kick a piece of wood across the shop, so keeping your hands free, keep your hands clear is very important for this thing. And I mean, safety, second to the table saw, this one just you really watch your P's and Q's. You are paying attention to what you're doing when you're using the machine. But as with any machine, you should be paying attention to what you're doing, but this thing especially. As well, this was another Craigslist find. When I'm driving west of St. Louis to get this, it did not have any cutters for it, and it actually was missing the axle, so I had to actually call Grizzly and get the part for that. It was a very nominal cost. But this thing, I paid $400 for it, and new they are $1,150 or $1,050. I'll have to check. But yeah, there was a considerable difference. The only thing I paid for, I bought the Helix head, which I believe was a little over $100 for that. But that, like I said, you can't have one without the other. Next up, we got the Grizzly 1066 24-inch dual drum sander. The dual drum sander is not a necessity for every shop. It's a total luxury item, and I got this particular one for $400. Brand new, it is $17.95. So it is not a cheap item new. I could not justify paying that much for a tool for that particular use, but used all day long. It works great. I believe it has a 5 horse power motor. Rule 1 of this drum sander: parts go in this way, parts come out that way. Do not stand on that side of the item. Done. It'll launch. It literally launches like a bullet out of this thing. So I've learned to stand off to the side with this thing constantly. The only upgrade also I did on this, I added the Velcro to the drums, so I can use hook and loop sandpaper, which was a big improvement. And I added the Wixley digital readout, so I can get the height correctly on it. That was also another big plus. Like I said, great investment, great price, love it. Lighting, gotta have it in your shop. You never have enough of it, it seems like. The lighting is actually really good in here. I went a ridiculous amount of lights in this place. If you look up here and see the bay after bay after bay after bay of fluorescent lights, I went to an auction that dealt with like old office spaces closing up, and I bought 2 pallets of office lights. For both pallets, I paid $45, and I have 22 lights up in the system here. I mean, usually your 1-2 bulb thing from Home Depot fluorescent light runs you at $15-$20. Let alone a 4-bay one. I mean, lighting can get expensive really, really fast. Look for auctions. Look at Craigslist. People sometimes just are looking to give the stuff away. Mind you, the pallets I had to go through. Some of the lights themselves weren't worth anything. They wouldn't even fire up. Ballasts were bad. Things were bad. I didn't even try to pull them apart to fix them. If it didn't light up and didn't test right, went straight to the recycle bin. Over to this old beauty. That's a Rockwell Delta 12-inch disc sander, cast iron top, 1 horse motor, dust extraction built into it. Wound up getting this from my father-in-law after he passed. It was one of the few things I took from his shop and kept up going here. It was nice to have a little piece of his wood shop in mind. Nobody else wanted it, and I'm certainly not going to say no to a free tool, especially one I don't have. Any of you guys know who have a disc sander, they're good for anything. Metal, wood, shaping things around. They're not that expensive, even new. It's definitely worth getting. Probably new, they'd be about $300. Harbor Freight, this is one of those classic examples where a Harbor Freight thing would be perfect. As long as you set it up correctly, it's going to last in your shop. It's a sander, it's a motor hooked to a disc. There's not a lot of moving parts here. So, this is where you want to save a little money, or especially looking at Craigslist. Another round on the family heirloom section. DeWalt 770 10-inch deluxe power shop, the radial arm saw, which in the modern shop really has no place whatsoever. But back when I was growing up, my uncle, this was the center of his shop. When he passed and I got the saw, I could not get rid of it just because it was really where my interest in woodworking kind of sprang from. Was seeing this machine and him doing all kinds of great things with it. I had to put a capacitor in it to get it up and running, but like I said, they still make parts for it. He actually still had the original manual from the 60s or 70s, wherever he got this thing. But I was able to find the part number and get the capacitor for it. No big deal. But where it does have a purpose in my shop, and it's dedicated for a single purpose, it is my fret saw. The blade on it is actually from StewMac, designed to cut frets on a table saw or a radial arm saw, anything basically that will fit the saw blade. My fence is set up for it. I have a pin for pin register. It actually hooks up to those plates there. I just tape them to my fretboard, put it on here and just notch the pin, pull it. I cut all my frets in one go. Takes me maybe 90 seconds to do an entire fretboard, and all the depths are completely level with each other. It was a little bit expensive for the blade, as everything is with StewMac. Like everything I've gotten with StewMac, it is perfect quality and worth every penny if you're willing to put out money for a specialized tool. As far as cost goes, like I said, it was $0. You can probably pick up a radial arm saw for $100 all day long on Craigslist. This is my Grizzly G4000. I have a machinist slave. When I originally started turning anything, it was before I really opened the wood shop, and I was doing metalwork, and liked the precision of it, and basically you need a different type of lathe for doing metalwork. But the nice thing is that you can put wood on it, and You can't be as artful because the tools are different. You don't have the tool rest. Everything is basically built into the machine, into dials and cranks. As long as you're a little bit creative and know how to blend them, you can use it for wood, and I do. And like I said, I'm not a big turner. I do necessity turning, and this is more than adequate for it. And in all honesty, I will probably build a tool rest that'll mount on this at some point. I bought this brand new, and I believe it was about 800 bucks. I think it's somewhere in that general range is what I paid for this. And also in the background here, you see we got a lot of template storage. Doing guitars especially, it's all about templates. There's a template for everything. If there's a shape, it's got a template. So as you can see, literally dozens of templates hanging on the walls here, and there's another set of 4 racks across on the other side of the shop. So next on our list here is a 17-inch bandsaw. It's the Grizzly Go513P. I have 2 bandsaws because I don't like changing blades. I know that's one of those things where people are like, that's not a reason to do it. If the price is right and you get the equipment for the right price and you got the floor space, it is a reason. Because what I use this mainly for is resawing and cutting straight lines. I don't do curves with this. This is all pretty much just straight through. It's a 2-horse machine, has a maximum cut depth of 12 inches, so perfect for any type of resawing I needed to do. When I bought it, Grizzly was running a sale on the white version of the machine, their Polar Bear version. It was $825 brand new. This is one of the few machines I did buy brand new. It was $825 for the machine, but they were running a sale to get rid of it and free shipping. So I got it for $726. A little bit off the price, but definitely worth it. Like I said, I use this for resawing, and I set this up when I got it 3 years ago, and it's still the original blade, not the blade that came with it, I'm sorry. The blade, the replacement blade I put on it, it's just probably due to be sharpened right now. But once I set it up and I get almost 0 drift, perfect resaw. I have resawed up to like an 1/8-inch slivers off of things on this thing, and have had no issues whatsoever. I mean, I could not be happier with this. The main reason for this is the blade. I am running a 1-inch blade, which is the max this will take. When you're doing resawing, if you can get away with having a 1-inch blade on your machine, go for it. If you have to do the 3/4-inch blade, that's great as well. But if you can get that wider blade, it really helps with any type of drift, because between the tension, the stiffness of that blade, you barely get any drift whatsoever. Now, as we're talking about money, and I've been talking about building this shop for a budget price, this is the one that's going to really knock you on your feet. I am running, it is I can't remember the exact tooth pattern for it. I couldn't find the box for it, but I do know it is a carbon tooth blade. Carbon tooth blades, as we all know, are not cheap. Or bandsaw blades in general are not cheap, especially when you start getting into the 1-inch realm. This is the problem that a lot of woodworkers have. They think like small woodworkers. I'm running a small garage shop or something of that nature. So they're like, if I need a good blade, it's going to cost me almost 150, 200 bucks for one of these, very nice Timberwolf blades, or whatever brand you particularly like to use. The problem with this is, when you think about major manufacturers, they are not going to pay that much for one blade. They can't. It's just not cost effective. So where are they getting their blades from? With a little help from the magic internet, I did some research. In Louisville, there is a branch for a company called MK Morse, the MK Morse Blade Company. They basically do industrial saw band blades. Metal, wood, whatever it is. If it's industrial, they're using it. I particularly am using the Quicksilver hardback, and that's the carbon tooth one. Now, this is where it's going to get you. How much did he pay for the blade? And it's a 131.5-inch blade. Cost me $18.05. Not 100, not 150. A carbide tooth blade, 1-inch for this machine, $18.05. It wasn't a special. It's all day long. I basically bought it directly from the manufacturer. All I had to do was send him an email, told him what I wanted, and wound up having to give him my credit card information. Got it a couple days later. I bought the same kind of smaller blade, mind you, for my other bandsaw, and it lasted about 7 months and wound up breaking on the weld. Sent them an email with a picture. They sent me out a brand new blade, didn't charge me shipping, didn't even have me send the old one back. Totally took care of me. Great customer service. Like I said, it's the name of the company is the MK Morris Company, and they deal with industrial blades. You can check out their website online. I'll put a link in the description below. But great company, just great all-around company. Bandsaw number 2. This is your standard run-of-the-mill 14-inch wood bandsaw. This particular brand is made by Cummins, but for the most part, all I know, the Harbor Freight, the Grizzly, the Jet, all of them are pretty much the exact same bandsaw, made probably in the exact same factory, just a different paint scheme and a different probably punch on the metal press to put their logo on it. So it's not something you want to pay an extraordinary amount of money for. You watch Craigslist for these things come up all the time. This one is a 3/4 horsepower, which has been perfect for everything I need to do. This is why I cut all my curves. I haven't mentioned this so far, but most of these tools that I bought used, the tops is usually what causes the price to go down. Usually they're a little rusty. Some of them have a few pits. Most of them hadn't had anything too bad. But yeah, usually they are dark brown with rust. Do not let rust scare you from buying a tool. An hour or two and a little bit of elbow grease, and you will turn every one of them back into pristine thing. This one here, you literally can see your reflection in. And this one was almost black when I got it. I'll do a video on how to remove rust and condition your tops. I mean, there's a lot of them out there. I watched a lot of them myself, but my particular method that I use, I like it. It's pretty much a hybrid of some of the ones out there and what products I use to treat them. But the only thing I did have to, on this one when I did get it, I changed the guides, put cool blocks in it, and I put new tires on it. They were there, but they were pretty shot, so I put a nice set of urethane tires on it. Price-wise, on these brand new, I'll go with the Grizzly version of this one. Mind you, this one did not come with a fence. I've never used a fence on the 14-inch bandsaw, because like I said, I used for straight lines, I used the other one, so it was no big deal to me. But $575 is what the Grizzly version of this saw goes for. Price I got for this, $100. And drove 45 minutes to go get it. Moving on to the sanding station here, I've got a Triton spindle sander, and I've got a Delta Shopmaster. I only use it for the belt portion. Pretty standard fare across the thing. This cast iron top, which is the only thing I was kind of looking for. This ran me $75, brand new. I think they're $100 now. I caught a Christmas sale. And this was actually taken from my dad's shop, so this was free. I'm sure this probably ran around $120 as well. This is completely priceless if you're doing any type of curve work, especially guitars where you're doing 1.5 inch stuff on end grain all the way around, or any type of curving things that it would just kill you normally because you'd be doing it all by hand. The spindle sander, definitely the way to go. I can't say enough good things about a spindle sander if you don't have one and you're doing curves. Oh, dust extraction, the dust collector, my arch nemesis. I believe it's pretty much the arch nemesis of pretty much every guy who owns a wood shop. No matter how big or small your dust extractor is, you always need to upgrade. Mine, in all honesty, is not the equipment itself. I am running a Grizzly 3 horsepower dust extractor with a dual bag system there, and my custom-made Cyclone. The Cyclone I actually bought on eBay. Guy makes them out of his garage, does really great work, great welds, airtight, and as soon as you turn the suction on, you can actually see it cave in a little bit from the suction. $140. I picked up the barrel at an Amazon purchase. I think it was $30-40. The Grizzly, the 3-horse Grizzly, I paid $150 for. I think brand new it's $495. I'm not sure I have all completely in the system, but it works great. Especially the Cyclone. I mean, this thing will fill up, and these bags here, there's nothing in them, and I have never emptied them for over 3 years. So nothing gets by this thing. Where my little blockade comes in is the ductwork. It's a science, we all know it is, and I did not lay out my design very well. It's all 4-inch PVC pipe. It was great to get me going. It works, but not very well. It needs to be 6-inch. For the amount of suction that I have and the amount of distance I am traveling, 6" is the only way to go. So that will be getting the next real major upgrade. What is this thing, you might ask? Okay, this is a total, it's one of those tools that every shop does not need. As a guitar builder, it's almost a mandatory type thing. Oh, not mandatory. It's a great convenience. Let's just call it that. This is an overarm pin router. As you see by the fancy color that everyone recognizes, the Powermatic colors. Full disclosure here, Powermatic never made an overarm pin router. Delta was pretty much the main manufacturer for everybody on these things. When I got this, this is one of those classes, I got it off eBay, and the guy was selling it on eBay and on Craigslist at the same time, which was going to go first for him. Problem was, he didn't know how eBay worked. eBay, if you had even a dollar bid on your item with 24 hours left in the auction, you can't cancel the auction. So I had bid $5 on it, and he had basically planned on canceling the whole auction. Fortunately, the bid being on there, he couldn't cancel it, so he had to let it go through. And basically, I won the bid. And the guy was none too happy about it. But he was a solid fellow, and he just didn't like losing. The money didn't matter to him. Now, the thing is, I had to drive to Pittsburgh to get it from Louisville, Kentucky. Me and a buddy get up there, and the guy has a shop that I saw he had built things, but there was no dust anywhere in the shop. I mean, nothing. It was the most pristine shop I'd ever seen in my life. And the guy was very, had a lot of money, from what I could tell, just by looking around the shop and the things that he had. So him losing money on this isn't what he was worried about. He just didn't like losing. And the guy, if any of you ever watched Dexter, the character John Lithgow had played, the serial killer, I'm pretty sure it was this guy, because there was nothing right about the whole situation. So we got this loaded up, me and the guy went with as fast as we could. The reason the guy was so mad, I won this bid, this machine, $275. Like I said, just had to go get it. These brand new, Delta doesn't make them anymore, Grizzly makes them now, but as we all know, Grizzly tools are usually fairly priced. The Grizzly version of an overarm pin router, which is the closest thing to this, brand new, without shipping, is $2,700. So, $2,700 machine picked up for less than $300. Total win in my book. Now, as you can see, this thing looks heavy. It is probably the heaviest tool in my shop. It was, I think, 550 pounds, almost 600 pounds. Getting it in the back of the truck was not easy. Getting it off the truck was less easy, because I can't actually pull my pickup truck to my shop. I could only get it about halfway here, so the rest of it is lawn. So it was kind of one of those things on a dolly cart, so needless to say, it was interesting. But I digress. What this thing is, it's a 2-horse motor. It's operated pneumatically by a foot pedal. Raise it, lower it, and that's how basically you do your plunge cuts or whatever you're going into. The pin here, basically you get your template, 2-way tape your stock to it, and basically this pin here, you get a matching pin to whatever size bit you got, and basically you lower it down, run it, and you just follow the pin all the way around, and just, it's nice. You can keep your hands free. You're controlling the workpiece instead of the machine. There's also a fence for it, so you can use it just like a router. This is one of the scarier machines in my shop. I will be the first to admit some of these machines scare the hell out of me. When this one's running, you respect it. I will be the first person in the world to ditch the piece of project I'm working on, just let it go. To the center of everyone's shop, the table saw. Something everyone's got, everyone needs, and everyone should have. This is a 10-inch Wilton. It's a 3-horsepower. I'm guessing probably built in the 60s or the 70s. It has the Biesemeyer fence. When I got it, the top was rusted out. The fence was in rough shape. The body of the saw was in kind of a rusty shape. So basically when I picked it up, took it all apart, sanded it, and painted it with a fresh coat of paint. It's amazing what a fresh coat of paint will do for things. Put a new tape measure on it, which I put in the wrong place. It's about 2 inches off, so that will need to get redone. Got to make sure you realize where the counter is, not where the blade is. Makes a difference there. Paid $400 for it. Getting a new saw wasn't really in the cards for me yet. I didn't know what I wanted, and what I did want is a little, of course, expensive. This works until I can get something better. I have complaints. It's a tool. It's going to have some complaints, like for the fact that if you don't lean on the off switch, the motor will start back up. You hit on, hit off, and it doesn't disrupt it. You have to hold it in, otherwise it just fires right back up. So that with a table saw is kind of scary. I am very, very respectful of the table saw. 2 family members of mine lost digits on a table saw, so yeah, I realize the damage it can do. I added the upgrade of the micro jig splitter. They're great, easy to install, works great. I'm a big fan of the micro jig products and the Magnaswitch products, which is kind of the reason why I go with cast iron and everything, because I can set up these things everywhere and they work great. Rikon air filtration system works great, other than the fact that the filters are expensive, so I pretty much get whatever filter I can and just tape it to the front, because hey, as long as there's no leaks around it, catches dust, it works. My outfeed table is an interesting story, along with my dead flat workspace. When I first started getting into woodworking, I started hearing about having a dead flat workstation to build things on it, and it made sense. So that the torsion box and everything, but it was a lot of work and quite a bit of really kind of cost in there. And I started thinking, I'm like, what else could work for a dead flat surface? And this is where you can get your dead flat work surface for free. Mine are slate topped because you notice these little holes on the end of it, because it's a pool table. Pool tables, you literally can get on Craigslist for free. People will pretty much give them to you just to get them out of their house. This one here is the one I actually played growing up, that was given to me by my aunt and uncle, and after years and years and years, it collected things. It was a flat surface that collected garbage, and I tried to sell it, couldn't sell it. Tried to give it away, couldn't give it away, and that's when it occurred to me that I needed a dead flat workspace, and you don't get much more dead flat than a pool table, and 2 stone sides work great because glue does not stick to it. So basically, when you're gluing things up, you get drips on the table, quick run by with a razor blade knife, and pop off comes the glue once it dries. It's a great surface for pretty much anything. Made some boxes to mount them in. The only problem is, anytime I'm using something that uses the channel here, the stone top keeps it from going all the way up. It basically takes it to the blade. So most likely, whenever I have to do something I constantly push through, I'll pull the table back a little bit and work around the problem. Because that's what woodworking is a lot of times, just kind of trying to work around problems. Yes, it's as ugly as it looks. It is the Harbor Freight Chicago Electric 12-inch chop saw. Festool Capex? It is not. Does it spin? Yes. Does it cut? Yes. That's about the most you can say for it. I wanted a 12-inch chop saw that had your travel on it, so it was the right price. I got it with the classic Harbor Freight coupon, and really it was all kind of about tuning it. You tuned it, make sure it was square, which you'd have to do with any chop saw. Originally, I had a nice chop saw station built with dust control, layout and everything. Wound up having to go build a project for a friend of mine in North Carolina, and needed the chop saw. Then realized I could not get the chop saw out of the station without literally tearing it apart. So I was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and just had to sacrifice everything I built just to get it out of there so I could use it. That'll teach me to give away its 10-inch little brother to a friend of mine, because I didn't want to have extra tools lying around. Wanted to increase my karma and share the wealth kind of thing, and gave the other tool away. Should have kept that one. I could have traveled with that one and left this one basically in the station. So when I redesign it, I gotta make sure it's designable to get out of here again in case I do have to use it for something else. Okay, this old favorite. Got this from my dad. It's a Duracraft 16-speed. Thing's probably older than I am. Runs on 110. Variable speeds, basically changed with the belt ratio on top. Really easy to use. Literally, it's a straightforward, no bells, no whistles drill press. The only upgrade to it is the fancy pool ball system here. Everything comes with knobs that are incredibly small for my hands. Pool ball is the perfect size. And the greatest thing about using a pool ball is you drill them out, you tap them, you don't have to use any type of insert to screw them onto whatever you might have in your shop. As long as you pick the right die and the right tap, it's an instant knob. And plus the pool balls, they came from my uncle's old pool table that I grew up playing on, so it's kind of like the sentimental thing, just recycle, reuse, save money, great. So, transparency for this, new drill press, full standing one would probably run you about 250 bucks. This was free. When it comes to a routing table, it's I don't want to say it's a must-have because what I used forever was the extension of my table saw, but I wanted to have something with a lift. Guitar making requires a lot of precision work and a lot of repeatable cuts. So, wanted the lift system. Unfortunately, as we all know, lifts are not cheap. So I went in and started looking around Craigslist. A little bit of waiting. I wound up coming across a guy updating his shop. He made this table. It's a Jessom lift with a 2 horsepower DeWalt router in it, soft start, and a whole bunch of accessories. And he just wanted it gone. So I offered him 150 bucks for it. He took it. So my routing table with lift, 150 bucks, brand new, probably you're looking anywhere from the $500 to $600 range with the router and the lift and all the stuff that, especially with all the accessories that he gave me with it. The only thing I added to was a foot pedal start. Can't recommend that enough for anybody in a shop format. Hate taking my hands off the work, especially to turn on a motor. So it's just as a simple start, one step, motor, and off. So it's something inside the router box here. I basically just built a box to go around my router and just hook the dust control right to it. So it's all plumbed in, works great. Control, basically change everything from the top. The guy did a real nice job putting it together. Plus he even gave me the templates to cut out a new top that he bought actually from Jessom. So if I ever decide I want to expand to something different, I've got the templates to redo it. But I really can't see doing that because this thing is really fantastic. If anything, I might add another track for the vent because that's pretty much a kind of a clamp-on thing right now. But I don't use that vent very much, and I don't mind moving some hand clamps. It works for me. The cabinet behind there is basically drill bit storage. My hand planes, don't have a lot of them. Don't really use them all that much. Like to see getting into using them eventually, but it's something I'm working on. But like I said, all my drill bits, all my machinist vices, and conversion tables, all that's basically in here. Always be on the lookout for people throwing cabinets away. People redoing kitchens, your work, updating stuff, tearing stuff out, throwing it in the trash. Don't be afraid to ask for the cabinets because you can use them in your shop. You don't have to build them, and it's instant storage for those little spots. I have literally all down this side of the shop, hooked up on a French cleat system. Not because I'm going to move them, but if you've ever hang a cabinet by yourself, putting a cleat on the back and a cleat on the wall and setting it up there is much easier than trying to balance it with one hand while using a screw gun, because that just never works. This monstrosity here doesn't look like a regular tool, does it? Not really, because it's a homemade tool. This is my buffing station. Basically, when I started my shop, I managed to acquire 2 drill presses. One was a tabletop Craftsman, which is what this was. Had no need for 2 drill presses, but what I really needed was a buffing station, since my primary focus was wanting to do guitars. When you're doing a high quality gloss finish on a guitar, you usually have to buff them out with some type of machine. Hand buffing really doesn't work very well. Hand ones don't really do the job. When you see the really nice finishes on the upper line guitars, like your Paul Reed Smiths, your Gibsons, they're done on a large buffing wheel. So, look at the price of getting one. Brand new, just for the station, and I'm not even sure if it includes the motor. $490, which is just obscene for what it is. So, with a little bit of ingenuity and a little bit of design work, I ordered, I think, $40 worth of parts, maybe $50. $50 worth of parts, scraps and pieces of scrap I had around the shop, and made a buffing station. Basically, ordered the cotton wheels, some bearings, some brackets, took the motor out of the drill press, got the back for the drill press, and just kind of drilled and tapped some holes that I needed. I think I had to turn one open up the pulleys on the lathe, which I could have ordered pulleys to fit the shaft I had, but had the metal lathe, so I went ahead and tooled them out as needed and turned it into a bumping station. Works like a charm. And basically the way they work, take some fresh compound and few keystrokes, and voila, nice shiny. There's absolutely no finish on that whatsoever. All it is just buffed out. So that's natural wood. Alright, as you can see behind me, I've got two sets of shelves here, basically storage. I have tall ceilings in the basement. A lot of garages have tall ceilings. Most of the time it's just wasted space, and there's nothing worse than wasted space, especially when you need some storage. So basically, a few 2x4s, some cabling hooked to the ceiling joists. Makes for a perfect overhead storage for miscellaneous. I have this run down one side of the shop. Probably want to put them up in some different spots as well, eventually as needed. Basically, as long as it's not in the way of the cabinet or the dust control system, probably going to wind up putting one in. It's a later shop project. Now, over here, I've got basically my sheet goods storage. Moving on to my workbench. The Rubio seems to be the go-to thing for everybody. Don't really have time for that to build one. I would like to. Cost is kind of high, and I don't know if it would really benefit me all that much. I'm sure it would. Maybe it's a project for years down the road, but you still need a good, reliable workbench. The Harbor Freight workbench, the one that comes with the standard maple top, it's actually a really solid workbench. The worktop itself really wasn't up to par for what I wanted. On auction, I wound up picking up almost a pallet full of oak. These 3x20-ish, 3x30-ish pieces. I basically laminated together a whole bunch of these and made a giant worktop and mounted it on top of the maple top of the Harbor Freight, and then just kind of trimmed it out and whatever I had lying around, connected it to the vise and kind of expanded it out some, and it has made a great work surface. Getting it through the sander to level it all out was a kind of a trick. Basically, it took me and my two kids to basically kind of feed it through, and because it's not light, that's for sure. On the far end here, I have a guitar maker's vise from StewMac. Like everything I said from StewMac, it's kind of pricey, but it is designed to basically hold a guitar by the neck so you can work on it, and they work great. So literally, you can take your guitar, put it between the jaws, give it a little twist. It's smooth, won't mar your finish. This is especially great when you're working on guitars that are finished. You can work on them, drill on them, push on them. They work great. Usually I'll put a little support under here, just if I'm going to be pushing hard on things, just keep from getting dislodged. But over here, basically my wheelie cart. This is where all my quick tools are. Hammers, glues, nails, pretty much anything I want within arm's reach ends up in this cart. Safety stuff, just so I can push around from station to station and stay out of my main toolboxes unless I really need something I don't use every day. These are the everyday use tools. Really recommend these for any shop because it's a Harbor Freight thing, it's cheap, it's convenient. You want convenience. You don't want to be too far away from your tools. And over here is basically my build table and my finishing area. Anything that isn't a spray finish. I tend to do all my spray finishes out in the garage. Got my clamps and the racks here on the wall. Of course, TV so I can, look for the game on Sunday and basically keeping track of iTunes so I can see what's playing from across the shop. And we got screws and racks over here and just all kind of miscellaneous chemicals, paints. Basically, I keep a lot of the decoration over here. Okay, that pretty much wraps up our shop tour, our very, very long-winded shop tour at that. Now that we've come to the end, I can give you the grand total of what was spent and what should have been spent on the shop. The grand total of money spent on the big machinery in the shop was $4,325. If I would have bought all of the equipment brand new, the grand total would have came to $14,065. Adding that all up, we had a grand total of a 70% savings across the shop by going used on the Craigslist and eBay market. So that just shows you with a little bit of work and a little bit of research how much money you can actually save putting your shop together when you have a low budget like I did. Thanks for going with me on this long shop tour today. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook and Twitter and click the subscribe button for future videos, which I'm going to try to get up on a weekly basis, but we'll see how that goes. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me on Punk Rock Woodshop. I'm Big Jim. See you next time.